Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the first half of the NFL Power Rankings, 32-17. In this segment, we finish up 16-1 coming up in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, December 3rd. But like I was saying, we are going to finish up our NFL power rankings here, getting into the top half of the league. At number 16, it's the Arizona Cardinals. A tough break for them. It really is. This is a Cardinals team that probably should have won that game against the Minnesota Vikings. They miss a field goal or two. They have an interesting decision to kick the field goal instead of going for it to go up 6 as opposed to potentially going up 10. It's one of those decisions that you just kind of have to live with. I don't hate it. I also don't love it. I probably would have gone for it in that situation. It's very similar, as people have been pointing out, to the situation with the Eagles in week 2 against the Falcons. When they did the exact same thing, same result occurred. We take a look at how it has turned out for the Cardinals and the Eagles, and probably a better idea just to go for it there. Of course, hindsight is 2020. That's how we live. But the Arizona Cardinals are a team that their defense has been playing incredible, really. The offense has just been unable to push in touchdowns. They had so many opportunities in that game where they settled for field goals, and points are important. You have to score points. But in a game like that, kind of a must-win for your division after you fell a little bit behind, losing to the Seahawks last week, they needed that win, and they probably should have gotten it. The Arizona Cardinals, still a good team, still top half of the league, but they're down here at 16. At number 15, we have those Seattle Seahawks. That defense continues to play great football. The offense I'm a little bit concerned about, but you had a pick 6 from Leonard Williams. They got pressure on the quarterback, and it's the Jets, so I'm not going to take too much from it, but it's very impressive to see that defense continue to play good football. That's the most important thing. As long as the defense can do what they need to do, as long as the defense can keep them in the game, they are going to be a very, very dangerous team, and we are seeing the defense get back to where it was at the beginning of the season and start to play good football again. Seahawks at 15. At 14, we have the Dolphins. And I know the Dolphins just lost a brutal game to the Packers. And I know the narrative of they can't win in the cold. It seems to be proven true. I'm well aware. I also know that the Seahawks took care of business against the Dolphins in week 3. Tua wasn't on that team. There were some flashes in that game. There were some dropped passes. Tua missed his receivers. They're not going to be playing in the cold all the time. Now, this is a concern for the playoffs, but I still think this is a Dolphins team that engineered a near comeback in the cold. If they had decided, I think, to run the ball a couple more times, maybe used a fullback or something at the goal line when they were down by 2 scores instead of throwing it twice on 3rd and 4th and goal and getting a sack to turn the ball over, this is a team that was still kind of in it at the end there. This is a Dolphins team that shows fight, that shows promise. The offense is explosive, as it has been since Tua came back, and it's not an easy game to play in the cold. I know they need to do better there, but this is a Dolphins team that I still do believe in at number 14. 13 is the Bucs. They escape with a win that they should not have had against a division opponent in the Carolina Panthers. Mike Evans is back. Bucky Irving has really stepped into a huge role in that offense, and he continues to play great. Baker Mayfield fighting through a couple of injuries, playing great football as well. They're getting just about everything they need, and they're staying competitive in every game. You'd like to see them blow out a couple opponents like the Panthers, especially with the way that defense has been. They shouldn't have won that game, though. I still think the Bucs are a good team. They're the best team in that division by a country mile, I think. But I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to win. They do need to beat They can't just tie. They need to beat the Falcons' record, which means they just need to be one game better than the Falcons from here on out. We'll see what happens, though. They're at number 13. At 12, it's the Houston Texans, and there is cause for concern on this team. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They escape with a victory. Jaguars almost come back. Obviously, the big story coming out of this game is the hit on Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence by Azeez Al-Shaair. He gets suspended for 3 games. That's a huge blow to that defense. He's been a starter all season long. I still think this is a Houston team that's starting to figure it out. Ever since Nico Collins came back, it's looked like a different team. They've gotten the offense going a little bit. I'd like to see Tank Dell get a little more involved like he was down the stretch of last season. But this is a Texans team that is continuing to play good, right? The offensive line, still an issue, but I really do love the spot that they're in. And I think if you let them in the playoffs, they could be dangerous. They should have a lock to the playoffs, though. They should win their division. At 11, we have the Commanders. The Washington Commanders go out there and they drop 42 on the number 3 defense in the league. They run for 267 yards. They are great when the run game is going. When Brian Robinson can run like that, they are almost unbeatable. Jaden Daniels has a huge game. Terry McLaurin, another 2-touchdown performance. He has really stepped into the light this season ever since they got a real quarterback. Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year contender with Brock Bowers over there. The Washington Commanders, after a 3-game slump, are turning it around. And I know it's against the Titans, but the fact that they had that kind of offensive explosion shows me that he's healthy, Jaden Daniels, and he's back and he's ready to cause some havoc around the NFL. And I cannot wait to see what happens. But getting into the top 10 here. The Minnesota Vikings are here at number 10. They drop 1 spot from last week. Still a good Vikings team, but I am a little concerned. Sam Darnold has not played as good as he did in the first couple of weeks. They went on and they got Daniel Jones. I think that's a great fit for the Vikings, but I'm still concerned about this team. The Cardinals were able to shut them down for most of that game. They're starting to find a little bit of a method to stop Justin Jefferson. I know it's kind of crazy to say that, and you go up against a good defense in the Arizona Cardinals, but the Minnesota Vikings going out there, not scoring a touchdown for the first half of football is very concerning. They kind of have this ability to kind of become a shell of themselves, not be able to convert once they get into field goal range, and that's going to come and bite them in the butt when they play some teams like the Lions, like the Packers, the rest of their division down the stretch, and some of these other top 10 teams. At number 9, we have the Chargers. A rough week for them, but their defense really stepped up. Their defense did a great job. Ladd McConkey had a huge game, but outside of him, nobody did. They still won the game. The loss of J.K. Dobbins is huge. You can see how much that affects them. They love to run the ball when they don't have their big rushing threat, and Gus Edwards is not cutting it right now. It's been an issue for the Chargers. Hopefully he gets healthy soon. He's on the IR, could be back for the playoffs. They just need to finish strong. They've got a couple of contenders. They're really fighting for that 7 seed. It's not going to be easy in the AFC to earn a spot in the playoffs, and the Chargers need to stay hot right now because they have plenty of teams right on their tail, including the number 8 Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos get a huge win on Monday Night Football. Their defense did not play like it's typical. They got 2 touchdowns, 2 pick sixes there on Jameis Winston, but they gave up a lot of points. They had a cornerback that got absolutely burned for 235 yards by Jerry Jeudy in the best revenge game by a wide receiver in the history of the NFL. This is still a really good Denver Broncos team. Bo Nix showed up and he dropped 40 points. Not just him, the defense too, but the Broncos dropped 40 points on the Cleveland Browns' head, and Bo Nix looked amazing. He really did. He showed me a lot of the things that I was scared he wouldn't be able to do, throwing the ball deep over the middle. He hit all those plays perfectly. A huge game for Bo Nix. He goes out there. You can say he's in the Rookie of the Year race. I don't think he is, but I do understand he's a quarterback. He's the second best rookie quarterback right now. He is absolutely, I guess, technically in the race. I wouldn't put him in there. I'd put him at distant third behind Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels. Regardless of that fact, they've seemed to have found the quarterback of their future, and that's huge for Sean Payton. 1-for-1 on drafting franchise quarterbacks, just continues to add to his resume as a great coach, a Hall of Fame coach. Denver Broncos at 8. Number 7, we have the Packers. I dropped them just one spot after this last week. I was more impressed by one team ahead of them, so they fell a spot to number 7. This is a Packers squad that got a big win against the Dolphins on Thanksgiving, right? A game that I did not think they were going to win. I thought the Dolphins would find a way to take that one in the cold, but they defended their house. They defended their turf. They went out there. Jordan Love played a good game of football. Jaden Reed is electric to watch. Another 2 touchdowns for him in that one. Josh Jacobs has really exploded. He's now the 3rd leading rusher in the NFL. This is a Packers team that I thought was going to be good. I did not think they were going to be this good. They go out there. They're going to make the playoffs if they continue to play like this, and they're going to be a very dangerous team once they get there. And number 6 is the Ravens. They have now lost 5 games. In those 5 games, they have lost by a grand total of 22 points. Justin Tucker has missed 22 points worth of kicks this season, all in the losses. They are even if Justin Tucker makes all his kicks like he's supposed to. And I'm not blaming this all on Justin Tucker, but there's a lot of games that you can say, hey, he should have made those and they would have won if he did. Now, I'm also not going to sit here and advocate to cut Justin Tucker. He's the greatest kicker in the history of the game of football. He's going to bounce back next season if they let him. If some other team picks him up, he's going to be a monster for them. You cannot cut Justin Tucker. And I understand name, brand value, whatever. It's a real thing in the NFL. When you have a guy like Justin Tucker, you can't let him go. You can't, even if he has a down season. There's been kickers that have had down seasons before. Chris Boswell, longtime kicker for the Steelers, had a down season a couple years ago. They kept him around. Now he's been the best kicker in the NFL this season, right? You have guys like Mason Crosby, going to go to the Hall of Fame. He had a couple of down seasons with the Green Bay Packers, turned it around, got right back, continued to kick for them for a little while longer. Right? This is not the end of the road for Justin Tucker. Just because he has one bad year doesn't mean they're done. As far as the rest of the Ravens, the defense has been playing a lot better of late, especially the secondary. They got burned by MVP candidate Saquon Barkley. Not much you can do about that. I'd like to see them rely on the run a little bit more, especially in a tight game. It's hard when you have your top receiver, when you're relying on guys like Nelson Aguilar, who continue to drop passes in his career. Maybe some Deontay Johnson. You traded for him. I know they're kind of iffy on if he's going to get in and play. I don't know what their plan is over there with him or why it doesn't work. But for whatever reason, the Baltimore Ravens, still a very good team. They just have some stuff they need to work on before they're truly contenders. Getting into the top 5, how about the Pittsburgh Steelers? How about Russell Wilson going off 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, keeping the Steelers alive, dropping 40 points on the Bengals' heads? Not something I expected the Steelers to be able to do. I thought the Bengals were just going to be able to outscore them, just because the Bengals' offense was that good. Their defense was undoubtedly going to give up points, but 40 is not a number I expected to be paired with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had not really been capable of that kind of offensive explosion all season long, but now here they are. They get it done. Pick 6 on the first drive of the game, doesn't matter. They rebound. Russell Wilson plays great football. That is why they brought him in. This is why the Steelers are a top 5 team, and they are a dangerous team in the AFC. They're going to win that division, and they could be a Super Bowl team this year with the way that defense is playing. We'll see, though. At 4, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. They escape once again using their magic pixie dust, magic powers. They escape with a weird penalty fumble call. It happens. I thought that was a false start. Probably shouldn't have given them the fumble. Should have given it back to the Raiders there, 5 yards back. You never know what was going to happen, but the Kansas City Chiefs escape with a win. That's just kind of how it's been all season long. They keep on finding ways to win, and like I say, good teams find ways to win. The one question is, are their wheels going to fall off? Are they going to stop having their lucky breaks? I have no idea if or when that's going to happen, but that is something I'm very concerned about with this Kansas City Chiefs team. They're very good, though. That defense is incredible. They're at number 4. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. They dominate in the snow. Josh Allen, the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to run, catch, and throw a touchdown. Just the 5th player in the history of the NFL to do that as well. Christian McCaffrey did it a couple years ago. That was the last time it happened, but the Buffalo Bills are amazing, right? They really are. They went out there and they decimated the 49ers. They controlled the game on the ground. They passed the ball when they needed to. They got everything they wanted and more out of this game. It was a great performance by Josh Allen by the Bills. He's an MVP candidate. This is a dangerous Bills team. Excuse me. And more than any time really, I think in his career, this is probably the year to take out the Chiefs. Now, they've said that before. They said that last year. But the way that these two teams are playing, the Bills are just playing much better than the Chiefs are right now. And I think they are clearly. There's clearly a divide between 4 and 3 in the league right now. At 2, it's the Eagles. I really consider them putting up to 1 after a big win against the Baltimore Ravens on the road. That's a huge performance for them. It was a running back off Derrick Henry versus Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley comes up with a couple huge plays down the stretch, gets a rushing touchdown down there as well. This is a massive, massive year for the Eagles, massive year for Saquon Barkley. They continue to do their thing. Their defense has been phenomenal. Their defense has been world beaters ever since the bye week, and this is a juggernaut of a squad, arguably the best team in the NFL. But at number 1, it's the Detroit Lions. They escape with a win on Thanksgiving. Jared Goff doesn't have his greatest second half. They almost are held scoreless in the second half, but they dominate the first half. They really do. They go out there, they get a strong lead. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency out of them. There's a couple of times in these games where they're just not getting what they need out of their players for all 4 quarters. It doesn't matter. The defense stood tall when they needed to. You can blame the coaching staff of the Bears all you like, but the Lions did enough to get a win. They're still the best team in the NFL. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the NFL power rankings. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to winners and losers from another wild week in the NFL. Week 13, come and gone. We'll talk about who had the best week, who had the worst week. Coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.